Hello there, Pete Moriarty here. Welcome to our latest live stream. This is our open question and answer session, and I'm here to answer as many of your questions as I possibly can until I get tired or run out of questions. Usually we go for about 90 minutes. Going to see how we go today. Now, if you're new to the channel, a big old welcome to you. My name is Pete Moriarty. I founded a company called itGenius, and we help small business owners systemize, organize, and scale using Google Workspace and a bevy of other small business technology tools. So I'm well known in the small businessy world for knowing Google Workspace well, but we also work with CRM systems, cloud-based phone systems, other automations like Zapier, getting your business apps talking to each other, and we try and help be as useful as possible to small business owners all around the world. Now, speaking of, we have audience all around the world, and we have customers in 15 countries now, which is pretty crazy. But I'd love to hear from you if you're watching the live stream. Please say hello. We try and keep these as interactive as possible, and I try and, as much as possible, answer all the questions that I get on the live. They are getting popular, so I can't get to every single question anymore, but I'll endeavor to get to as many as I can. So if you are on the live, please make sure you say hello. Drop down in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or somewhere else, and say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you have a question that you'd like answered, you can either ask at ask.itgenius.com. You can put it in the list there. You can even vote up and vote down any questions that you want to have answered. Or if you ask it on the live stream, I'll do my best to answer. Now, if you're watching the repeat, just put a little hashtag repeat down there. Say hello as well in the comments. Let me know what your favorite thing was that we covered. And of course, if you've got an upcoming question, make sure you drop it in to ask.itgenius.com, and we'll get the best questions there and answer them as soon as we can. All right. So if you don't know who we are, itGenius, you can head along to itgenius.com if you need to get in touch with our team. If you would like a free consultation that is available for all small business owners who want to get control of their tech stack and get things organized so you can systemize business, scale your business, and basically run your operations better. That's what we're looking to do, right? We want to get into business to create freedom, but sometimes we can be a bit of a slave to the business that we've created. But when we have our tech systems right, they can support us to build really great teams. Tech doesn't magically take away the problems of a business, but tech set up correctly can help us to support really great work done by performing teams. And that's what we're looking to create, high-performing teams. So I'll say hello to some people who are on the live already. Amir, thank you for joining. Great to have you here. It looks like the live is running a little bit slow there, but that's okay. Fingers crossed, all is working all right. I'm going to check I don't have any errors here, and it looks like my microphone at least is working okay. I'm going to assume that there is a bit of a delay, but we will proceed regardless. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our first question here and see what we've got. I'm going to sort by popular questions, and that means that if you vote for another question, it'll find its way up to the top for me. So Graham asks, we have a setup of standardized Chrome bookmarks for our workspace users. These appear without issue on desktop Chrome, but not on users' Android devices' Chrome browsers. Is there a setting to fix this issue? Now, if you're a small business owner and let me try that again. If you're a small business owner and you're interested in setting up a standard operating environment, well, one way of doing that is through standard managed bookmarks. And this is a feature built into Google Workspace. It means that you can have a standardized set of bookmarks that everyone in the company gets, or certain groups of users that you delegate to. And this is a really useful feature, particularly in the age of phishing and scam attempts. It basically means that you can not enforce what websites that someone accesses, but you can at least give someone a safe link that you know points to the right website for the service that you're looking to access. That might be something like a banking website. It might be something like a customer portal. It might be something like how you upload documents and communicate with your clients. A standard set of bookmarks allows you to have one place that is automatically going to be applied to any Chrome device that is signed into with your users' business accounts. Now, of course, someone has to sign in with their business account for this to work. So if you've deployed a policy and it's not appearing in people's devices, whether that be a desktop device or even a mobile device, perhaps you want to check that they're actually signed in with their business account to that device, because that's going to have to be their first step. But once that's done, well, the policy that you set should automatically apply. And I'm going to show you where to apply that policy so you know how to set it up if you haven't yet done that yourself. So we're going to go ahead and log into our admin panel. We go to admin.google.com, and inside our admin panel, we're going to look for our Chrome policies. Now, there are two types of Chrome policies inside Google Workspace. There is a device level policy and there is a user level policy, and they're applied in different ways. Confusingly, you can have user-based policies that can get applied to different devices, like, for example, a mobile phone or a desktop computer. But the important thing to understand is, I guess, with those user device policies is they might be better named to be account-based policies. They're going to apply to the user account that somebody is signing into, whereas the device-based policies are going to apply to a managed device. And no matter what user is signed into that managed device, device-level policies are going to apply to those users. Now, in what case could you have device-level policies doing something useful? Well, if you're using Chrome devices like a Chromebook or a Chromebox, well, you might decide to make use of a device-level policy to, say, set it up as a kiosk. If you have a public use computer, or maybe you want to set it up for some kind of digital signage, you can invoke certain kiosk features which allow you to say, no matter who logs into this, after 1 hour, they should be logged out. Imagine you're a public library and you want to have that happen automatically. Maybe you say any user who accesses this device, if they lose the device and someone else tries to sign in, it will only allow logins from our company domain. That would be another device level useful feature. Another device level feature is forcing the machine to re-enroll into your company if it's ever wiped. And what that means is if someone were to reset the device, it would have to be enrolled back into your company. It's basically locked to your company. These are useful device level policies, but we're not going to cover them today. Today, we're going to cover our user level policy for managed bookmarks. So I'm going to jump into my admin panel here, and usually the easiest thing to do is search for policies. So I'm going to search for bookmark and see what comes up here, see if it's going to bring up the correct policy for me. It's brought up some help articles, but they're not exactly what I want. So let's say, try searching for the word managed. Okay, so we're getting close. We're getting to manage browsers. Maybe I'll go to Chrome user settings. That's probably going to find what I'm after. Okay, let's see if this works. Chrome browser settings. That's the one I'm going to go for. Let's bring that up. And you can see here there are user and browser settings. And Google's made a nice little update here, and they've actually now identified for the different policies which devices they will apply to, because some policies are only available for certain devices, and you can see here which ones will work on a computer or a managed browser. So that could be a Chrome device, or it might just be someone with a Google Chrome browser and they're logged in. Oh, sorry. That's fairly obvious here. You've either got a computer, which would be a Chrome device, or you've got a managed browser, which is the Chrome icon here, then you have Android, and then you have iOS. So 4 different kinds of devices they can be applied to. The Chrome browser can obviously be a Mac or a PC. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, and now I'm going to search for bookmark, and I'm going to look for the bookmarks menu, or the bookmark setting, rather. And I'm looking for managed bookmarks. So you can see here, we have managed bookmarks, and it says that managed bookmarks are available for Chrome devices, Chrome browsers, Android, and iOS as well. So that seems to be workable. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click through into my managed bookmarks. Let's open these guys up. Okay, so we have 12 bookmarks configured. I can hit edit bookmarks. And what this will let me do is change and modify any of these apps as I need to. You can see here that some of these are like Google Forms that the team use internally. Some of these are Google Sites, which we use for an intranet. Some of these are third-party SaaS applications like Asana, which we use for task and project management. And then, of course, we send people to our website and to our billing system as well. So they've got all the options there. So once you configure domains here, these will automatically be assigned to anyone in your company. And what they're going to look like is, I've called my menu the links menu here. I can click on that menu and it's automatically going to show me all of those links there. And anyone who's signed into a Chrome browser on a Chrome device should get access to these. Now, if you don't have access to these on an Android device right now, that's a bit of a curious one. I'm wondering if maybe it has something to do with the policy. No, I don't think it does. Some policies here only apply to premium versions of Google Workspace. So some of these you will see a small icon denoting that these are only available on the Google Workspace Business Premium plan, for example. Or some of them, I believe, are only available to enterprise as well. And some of these, obviously, if you're looking to manage a Chromebook or a Chrome box, you're going to have to use the Chrome device level management, and that requires a separate license. So for each Chrome book or Chrome box that you want to manage with device level policies, you need to buy that license. But the confusing thing is you can still do the user-based policies. They're not the good ones. The good ones are the device level policies. So if you're doing Chromebooks or Chrome boxes and you want to manage them properly, you pretty much got to buy one of those Chrome enterprise licenses. Very well worthwhile, so you can lock those devices down and protect them from getting into the wrong hands or somehow being compromised potentially. Okay, so that about covers that question. I'm going to assume for this person, the Android device is either not signed in to the Google account, or the policy hasn't been applied to that particular user. Check they're in the right organizational unit, or check the policy has been applied to right across the whole company. There isn't that small little icon that says that this feature is only available for your particular devices. I do know that if I go into, for example, some of my mobile device management, let me try and find these. Is it under Chrome browser? No, I think it's under devices. Let's go to Chrome settings for devices. Oh, I think that's the same one. Okay, device settings. Because I want to show you what that little icon looks like. It gives you a little notice. Okay, I can't see any of them, but my team will have to pop this in when this gets edited and published. But there's a little, they may have changed the icon, but there's a little icon that says this feature is only available for Workspace Premium. Let's try something like password. Let me see if that locks it down, because from memory one of them was a password one. No, doesn't appear to be working. Okay, cool. Well, we'll move on, I think. Great. G'day, Bruce. Hello from Toronto, Canada. Welcome. All right. We've got a live question. I always try and answer the live questions first. Do you have a best practice for Google Workspace admin for our user passwords? How often should they be changed, and level of password quality, etc.? That's a good question. Let's talk a little bit about password management. And if you're a small business owner, you can't really ignore this, because getting access to team accounts is one of the easiest ways for someone to scam a small business owner. Unfortunately, it's very common for someone to access a username and password, because there have been many public website hacks that take a password and an email address combination, and for your staff who have used that same password in multiple places, they punch it into Google and they log into your team account. Now, that itself might not be that dangerous. If someone gets into your Google Drive and steals your profit and loss statement, who cares? You're not a public company. They can't trade on that information. They can't sell that information. Nobody cares about your P&L, right? But what they can do is they can work out who your suppliers are, and they can email you from your staff email account and pretend to be someone in your company saying, hey, we need to pay a supplier urgently today. Please help us make this payment. Except those bank details are not going to your supplier, are they? No, they're going to a third party. So it is very important for you to consider at least some basic password management properties. Of course, the most basic way of protecting your accounts inside the company is strict two-factor authentication. We have many videos on the channel on how to set that up and how I recommend configuring it. But let's talk a little bit about the passwords and how to set those up. Now, if you go into your admin panel inside your Google Workspace, head along to admin.google.com. You can go straight to the security menu, authentication, and then there's a menu for passwords. Now, under password management, we've got a few different options here. It's actually pretty straightforward to set some basic policies. And you'll see here that enforcing a strong password is a simple tick box that would be my strong recommendation to go ahead and do that. When you enforce a strong password, it means that your team can't put their dog's name and then 123 as their password. It means that they can't repeat passwords. It means that they can't use your company name as a password. It's going to restrict all of those kind of things. And minimum length, I've got 10 here set for our company. My recommendation is that you at least have 10 if you want to go crazy and you've got something like LastPass rolled out for the whole company. So you have automatic generation of passwords happening, and everyone's really diligent in making sure they use different passwords for different accounts. Well, you might want to even increase that, because if you've got a password manager supporting the password, that would be really useful. But to be honest, like, you don't really need that more than 10 characters in Google, because Google are pretty hard to perform any kind of brute force attacks on. This is more of like a psychological thing for your team. If you force them to put a 10-character password, they're probably going to put a slightly more sophisticated password than just a dictionary word and a couple of numbers. We hope, anyway. But we've got some other options here as well. So we've got the option to rotate passwords. And for a lot of our team, we choose to rotate these 30 days. We want to be very careful with the passwords. However, I have actually learned something recently, that rotating of passwords is actually a little bit of a relic from apparently 1990s password management policy. And it's less important these days when we have pretty robust two-factor authentication in place. And unless we have reason to suspect that a password has been compromised, something like 30 days is probably a bit of overkill. So 90 days, 180 days, or even a year is probably adequate at an absolute minimum. But you do want to at least be rotating those, knowing that some of your staff are going to be reusing their passwords. It's unfortunately just inevitable. Now, we can't talk about passwords without talking about the evolution of passwords. Google have introduced a passwordless beta into Google Workspace. You may have noticed that as I was going through my menu. And the passwordless option is effectively the option to use something called pass keys. And pass keys let you, excuse me, and pass keys let's try that again, get my English right. Pass keys let you use the authentication of your device to log into your account without having to type in a password. So that might be a face recognition on your phone, it might be a fingerprint on your computer, or a combination of multiple. And it allows you to actually bypass the need to put in a password at all for computers that you've already signed into. And the thinking behind this philosophy is that, well, we're already accessing our account from our computer. It's probably unlikely that we're going to change machines that often. And so for 90% of the times that we need to enter a password, we're probably going to be on a machine that already has our fingerprint or our face stored. And so you just need to click this button, switch on this feature, and the next time you log in with Google, it will prompt you to add a pass key. Now, these are a great way of securing your accounts. It's more convenient to get in, and anything that's more convenient is going to be good for your staff inside your company. Security is always about finding a balance between actually protecting your company data and convenience for your staff. Because if you roll out a policy that's just way too inconvenient or annoying or frustrating for your team, well, they're going to start to reject the idea of security principles. And we don't want that, because it means that it's going to be harder to implement new policies in the future. And it's also going to be harder to fundamentally protect your business, which is the number one thing that we're trying to do here, right? So great question. Thanks, Bruce, for that one. I hope I've answered that as much as you need it. All right, let's move on to our next question. We have a question here from Amir. Any recommendations for an app that manages Gmail signatures? I don't have an official recommendation for you, because there are a number of them out there, and I, to be honest, have not got my hands dirty with them personally for about a decade. This is a pretty popular question, so I think we might make a video and release it on the channel with our recommendations. There is one that I've used recently with a client called Signature Satori. You might be interested to check that out, Signature Satori. But I don't have any personal recommendation in terms of a broad spectrum of the different options that are out there. I'd love to give that to you. We might put that in an upcoming video. Okay, let's go on to our next question. So Amy asks, is there a way to have a document in the shared drive that is force copy among opening? I know that I can change the end of a link to copy and then send that link, but I still have to share it manually. I want the document that is stored in a shared drive to force copy upon opening. So, Amy, this is a good question. And for anyone that doesn't know, I may even show what this trick is because it's a pretty useful trick for you to see. This trick will help you with Google Docs anytime you want to share a document outside your company or even inside your company that forces someone to create a copy of the document as you open it. It's great for templates. It's great for you creating something once and having multiple copies made anytime someone wants to create a new version of the document, rather than having to manually copy and potentially making changes to the document that you've shared with them. So let's have a look at how it works. Now, if we go into our Google Drive, I'll open any old document here. Maybe I can find one of my demo documents. Let's go into my shared drive. I've got a demo folder here somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe it's in my drive. There we go. Okay. And when I open the document, look closely at the URL. You've got the docs.google.com/spreadsheets. That's pretty obvious. We have the actual document portion of the URL, which is a long, randomly generated set of characters. And then we have right at the end /edit. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take that /edit and we're going to change it to /copy. And I'm going to Control-C, make a copy of that document. Now, if I open a new tab and I paste that URL with /copy on the end, you can see here it automatically prompts me to make a copy of this document. When I click that button, it's going to open the document in a new window with a fresh copy. I don't have to do anything else. And you can see here it's obvious this is a copy because it starts with copy of at the start of the document. Love that feature. Really useful if you want to share things. Let's go ahead and trash this one because we no longer need it anymore. But that's not the question. The question is there a way to have a document in a shared drive that's forced copy upon opening? They effectively want to mark the document as for copy. Now, that's not possible inside the individual shared drive. You can't denote that, okay, documents in this folder or documents in this shared drive are all copy upon opening, unfortunately. But there are a couple of tricks that you can do to change settings for documents that may be useful. I doubt they are for the person who asked this question, but for others who are watching this video, I'm going to go through them anyway because they're pretty useful to know what you can do with a shared drive. Now, when you're managing your shared drives, you've got lots of different options for who to share those drives with. We recommend using group-based permissions so you can share documents and data with certain groups of staff rather than sharing them with individuals. And we've got plenty of other videos on the channel on how to create group-based permissions inside of Drive using your admin panel. But there's a lesser known feature for shared drives and a lesser known menu which allows you to have additional configuration options. So when I right-click on a shared drive, I have the option to go to Shared Drive Settings. And inside my shared drive settings, I've got a few different features here. Now, it looks like I'm not the owner of this shared drive, so I can't change the settings here. I'll walk you through them regardless. So the first setting here is whether or not to allow people outside of your company to access files. Now, the owner of this shared drive is a company called Genius Creations, and that's basically saying, do we want users outside of Genius Creations to be able to access this, or do we want it completely locked down so only people within the company can access? That's a pretty good option to toggle if I want to lock things down. Next up, allow people who are not shared drive members to access files. Now, this one's a bit more related to people inside your company. It basically says, hey, can you share an individual file under the structure of this shared drive out to someone who's outside the shared drive top level permissions? Remember that Google works permissions a little bit differently to Microsoft or Mac OS if you've used one of those operating systems before for advanced permissions. With Google, you set permissions at the top level, at a folder level, or at perhaps a shared drive level. But underneath that, if you have a subfolder or you have files that are sitting in folders, you can share those to different people as well without giving them access to the whole parent folder. And that's an interesting concept. It's useful for most businesses, but sometimes you don't want to share anything outside the explicit people that you've named in the shared drive. That's what this text box is for. Next up, allow content managers to share folders. This is another one again. A content manager on the shared drive is someone who can manage content. They can add folders, they can add files, they can edit files, and a content manager can also delete as well. They can move things around and they can change things. But this option is saying whether or not you want to allow someone to share a whole folder or if they should just share files individually. Finally, this is one of my favorite features, allow or disallow viewers and commenters to download, print, and copy files. That does exactly what it says. Great feature that not many people know about. We have the ability to say, on this particular shared drive, I don't want anyone to be able to download, copy, or basically rip off our data. Now, that would be really useful if you're perhaps setting up a training drive and you want to share that with contractors who are external to your business, and you're worried about someone potentially copying your intellectual property and sharing it somewhere on the internet. Great feature for that. I really like this for making sure that if we're sharing things externally, we're keeping them well locked down. And if someone really wanted to rip you off, I guess they could take a screenshot of every page of a 50-page PDF document that you've got stored in there. But the reality is that most people won't bother because this is just another barrier making it hard to run off with your data. All right, great question. Couldn't absolutely nail that question, but that is okay. All right, I think I'm going to switch to recent questions. Let's see how recent they are. The weird thing about my question app is I can't actually see how old they are. So I've got no idea if these were like today or weeks ago. But anyway, all right. Let me grab a drink of water before I do the next one. That's probably a good idea. Let me check my stream is still working. My internet's been a bit slow today, but seems to be working. That's good. Okay. So we'll go to our next one. Anonymous asks, I've created my Gmail Workspace account. I used to receive emails, but since May the 7th, I can't receive any emails anymore. I tried everything, but there's no way to fix it. Can someone help me? If you have a Google account and your emails are not being received right now, your issue is probably to do with one of two things. Number one, it's something to do with your domain names or your DNS settings. And that could be something related to a number of different issues. I'll cover some of the basics and how to test for it. The second issue that it might be is you might have forgotten to pay your bill and Google might have put your account on pause. And that's a pretty simple solution. You need to check inside your account settings, log into your admin panel, go to the account section, check your subscriptions, and make sure that you're paid up and your billing account is in good order. Now, if that doesn't fix your problem, let's look at some of the other issues that might be causing a problem with Google. And for those on the call whose emails are working fine, let me show you some of the things that you can check to make sure that things are running tip-top as well. So the first thing I like to do is check that the domain registration is valid. It seems silly and it seems basic, but the number of customers who call up our IT help desk and say, hey, my emails are not working, there's something wrong with Google, can you please fix it? We check their domain name and subsequently we discover that they haven't renewed their domain name. Now it's usually something pretty innocent like a credit card has expired or you got an email from GoDaddy and you just didn't see it or it went to your spam mailbox or something like that. But this is definitely the first thing that you want to check. Now, the easiest way to check a domain name registration is head along to a website called whois.sc. That's my favorite one for that. And if you're clever, you can even go whois.sc/your domain name. So I'm going to punch in itgenius.com. And it's automatically going to do a lookup on my domain name without me even having to make an extra click. Let's go ahead and wait for this to load. All right, now, it's got to check I'm not a robot. I suppose that's fair enough. And this is going to give me a domain report of the registration of my domain, when it's due, is it active or not, when was the last time it was updated. So you'll see here, I can see when it was created. I can see when it expires. So I've got plenty of headroom for expiry, considering we're recording this in 2024. And when the registration was last updated as well. Now, I can also see the name servers. And if you don't know where your DNS settings are set right now, this will give you hopefully a hint of where your settings for your domain name are actually stored. Now, mine are pointing to Cloudflare, so that's pretty obvious. That makes sense that my settings would be in Cloudflare. If you don't recognize the names here, sometimes checking the name servers with a Google will help you to find what service provider may be using those name servers. And so if it's Wix, if it's Squarespace, if it's GoDaddy, if it's somebody else, you'll hopefully be able to find which name servers have the DNS, because if your domain name is registered and you're still not getting emails, your problem is something to do with DNS. So let's have a look at your DNS then. Let's do some basic troubleshooting there. So the first thing for us to do is head along to another handy online tool, and this one is called mxtoolbox.com. Now, when we go to mxtoolbox.com, again, we can run a search on our domain. I'm going to punch in my domain name, itgenius.com, and it's going to bring up a report on the DNS settings for my domain. So once this opens, I'm going to be able to see how my DNS is configured, and it's going to tell me where it's actually pointing to for my mail servers. Now, this is MX Toolbox because the primary record we're trying to work on here is for mail. MX is short for mail. There are other DNS records as well that exist for your business. On your domain name, you will have an A record, and that A record will typically point to your website. You will also have sometimes a CNAME record. Another name for that is an alias record. And sometimes you'll use a CNAME record for an alias of your domain, like www.yourdomain. That will typically point towards your domain name on your web hosting as well. Now, there's lots of other uses for DNS records, like if you have a physical office and you want to work from home but dial into an app or a service at the office, you may choose to use a host name like office.yourcompany.com, and you would also set that up as an A record. I won't go too much into the detail about the other records because today we're going to be focusing on MX. Now, when we run a search on mxtoolbox.com, by default, it's going to be doing an MX lookup. And you can see here, I've got a drop down with lots of different lookups that I can do for my domain name, but for now, we'll focus on MX. Now, as I scroll down, you'll see there are a number of different records, and these are effectively your mail server records in order of priority. The numbers here represent a priority, so it'll first go to anything listed with a 1, and then any number you set, in this case it's 5s and then 10s, they will have equal priority based on the number that is there. Now, the simplest thing for you to look for to check that your domain name is configured correctly for Google Workspace delivery is to scroll down and look for your email service provider is. Now, it says Google Apps, which is the old name for Workspace, even before it was G Suite, so they're running 2 names behind. But if it says Google Apps, you're in luck. It means that your email's domain name are actually pointing to the right place, to Google. Now, if they're still not receiving any emails, well, there might be something else going on with your account. It may be suspended because of Google's anti-spam or explicit content policies. Sometimes there is a bug or an error of some sort in the billing and it's not immediately obvious in your administration panel. Sometimes you may have configured your DNS records here, but for some reason there's a reputation issue with your domain, and that can be impacting delivery. Mostly that's going to impact outbound, but yes, sometimes it does impact inbound delivery as well. Maybe for some reason the name servers that you've set are faulty or they're not quite correct, and the name servers with your domain name registrar are not quite sending the information to where your settings are. So the settings could be correct here, but maybe they're just not being read properly by the receiving person or the person that's querying the DNS records. So if you still have problems with this and you need help, you can click the link down below this video, get in touch with our team. We have a quick fix service, which is available during Asia Pacific and US time zones. And that means that our team who are on standby 5 to 6 days per week will be able to log in, fix your Google records, and we have a no fix, no fee guarantee. So if you do get stuck, it is completely refundable if we're not able to fix the problem. If you need help right now, click on the link down below and chat to our team. But if not, if you're on the call and everything's running hunky-dory, great, big thumbs up. You can also use this MX Toolbox tool to check other solutions like your, what do we got here, DKIM, your DMARC policy, and your SPF policy. 3 important policies for delivery. And if that sounds like complete nonsense to you because it's tech speak, then just search our channel for SPF. If you search our channel for SPF, you're going to find lots of videos explaining what those are, what they do, and how to make sure your emails don't end up in people's spam mailboxes when you're sending email by configuring those correctly. It also means that people can't pretend to be you on the internet, which is pretty useful as well. All right, that's a good one. Great question. Very common one as well. About half of the hits to our quick fix service are for people who are exactly in that situation. They've buggered up their DNS records and now they can't access anything and their emails are not working. All right. Oh, I should also add on the end of that question, if you have a problem with your DNS records and someone has tried to send you email but you've not received the email, one of two things will happen. Either they will receive a bounce back, meaning the delivery has failed, and that means that the email will never come through to you. It will just bounce back to the original sender. Think of it like a return to sender. If a letter comes into your letterbox and it's for the wrong house or the wrong person, you can just write return to sender on that email or that letter, sorry, and then you can send that back to the postman and they take it back to the post office, and I don't know where it goes. It goes somewhere else. But that's what a bounce back is. Secondly, if you have an email that was sent and it's not yet received by you, it might be in pending status. Now, pending status is a special status where a delivery has been attempted, but it hasn't yet reached the recipient. It doesn't necessarily bounce back, although the sender, let me try that again. It doesn't necessarily bounce back, although the sender may receive a message to say that their email has been delayed, but effectively the mail has not yet been delivered to you, so it's sitting there in a holding pattern. Now, it usually only waits there for a day or two or maybe 3, and if it can't deliver after a number of days, it will then typically send a bounce back to the original sender. But if you're able to fix your emails quickly, what that means is you're likely to still receive each of those emails progressively over the next couple of days as delivery is reattempted. Now, think of this like someone trying to deliver a parcel to you. You're not home and they take the parcel back to the local post office, or they take it to the courier depot and they try and deliver it tomorrow. They try and deliver it the next day. If they're unsuccessful after a certain period of time, they're then obviously going to send it back to the sender. And the same thing happening here is the same thing is happening here in the digital realm. All right, cool. I feel sorry for my editors who are going to have to chop through that one. Okay, cool. Secondary domain is not getting added. Well, that's not really enough information for me to answer, is it? All right, I'm going to skip that one. No question, thank you. Thank you. Isn't that a weird thing? I mean, who goes to a Q&A session and types in, I have no question. Some people are funny. Okay, how can I hide my IP address to do a remote job? Okay, oh my God. We've done way too many of these for the channel. I mean, I love answering these questions, but you're not our target audience. Sorry, guys. I don't know, unless you want to hide from China, and you want to get your assets. You want to get your assets out, which are some of our customers. But that's not this question. If you want to do a remote job, or you want to hide your IP address, the easiest way is probably through a VPN. However, depending on the sophistication of the IT team at the job you're working at, they may be able to work out where you're from. Also, I can't advise that you pretend to be somewhere else if you're trying to get work done, because it's very possible that that's in breach of your employee agreement, and that might put your job in jeopardy, which I don't think is a good idea. So I can't really condone that. I think the cat and mouse game of trying to hide from IT, you're probably going to lose, because IT are pretty damn smart at working things out. And then if they get a whiff that you're up to something, IT are just as clever as hackers. Like they can deploy a trap for you and you won't even know, particularly if it's a company that's managing your desktop computers. Now, do us as a managed service provider give a shit about where you're working from? Are we going to dob you into your employer? No, we don't care. Unless we've been asked to do a security audit and we find that you're working from another location, or we find that you're working with with a VPN tunnel, right? We might alert your employer to that. But what's more likely to happen is if someone's working remotely and they're, like they've skipped off to a developing country to live on the cheap and still get paid their, top tier high cost of living dollary dues, what's more likely going to happen is like your performance is going to drop because you're drinking too much coconut juice or water. Sorry, coconuts have water. And your employer is going to come to us and they're going to say, hey, I think this employee might be working somewhere different. Can you guys find out? that's when we look and we find out. Pretty easy to do. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I got so many of those questions. Okay, I have Google Workspace Business Starter Flex licenses right now. Is it possible for one user to have a business standard license? I'm 99% sure yes. I'm 99% sure yes. I don't think there's any minimums on the licenses. And my strong recommendation is to go for the business standard license because they include the ability to record your meetings and have those recordings automatically put into your Google Drive, which I love. It's such a killer feature. Good question. All right. Sunlight and Shadows asks, how about that for the duality of our universe? Sunlight and Shadows. Is it possible to have two domains linked to a workspace? Also, do we have to move our email accounts over to Workspace immediately? It'd be great to test the integration with other tools before committing to Google Workspace. This is a great question. If you're a business and you'd like to try out Google Workspace before committing, there are a number of different ways that you can do that. When you set up a Google Workspace account, typically, yes, it is going to be tied to a domain name. When you register for the account, you need to choose a domain name. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to immediately cut over your email delivery to go to Google Workspace. Imagine the case of a large organization that is maybe a hybrid setup where they have some mailboxes in the Microsoft world and some staff want to use Google. Well, you would have to run two systems in parallel, right? And in that case, you may choose to have a split delivery system of some sort. Maybe Microsoft receives the emails first and then they go to Google, or maybe Google receives the emails and they forward one team's emails back over to Microsoft. But if you're just getting started with Workspace and you're curious to give it a bit of a spin before you do any cutting over of email, well, the first step for you to do is after you sign up to an account, verify the domain name. Now, domain verification and domain email or MX record setup are two different things. Verifying a domain just means that you verify to Google that I am the only owner of this domain name and this Google Workspace account is tied to that domain name. Now, Google doesn't let you create a second Google Workspace account using the same domain. Every Workspace account can only have your domain once. So you can't create multiple Workspace accounts. It's not going to let you. Verifying your domain is a very important step because it means that you put a stake in the ground and you claim that I own this domain name and no one else can use it on Workspace. Now, at that point in time, Google is going to prompt you to go ahead and set up your DNS records to start redirecting mail to the users that you've configured inside your Workspace account. But you don't have to do that. You can stay as long as you like with a verified domain without cutting over email. Of course, you do have to pay for licenses if you've deployed user mailboxes, but you don't have to necessarily do that if you just want to test things out. Or maybe you just get a single mailbox to try it out. Now, the interesting thing is where this comes down to testing integrations. If you're interested in testing integrations using Google's identity service, well, you can make use of that. But something weird is going to happen. Let's say, for example, you want to sign up for Asana to manage some tasks for your team. When Asana prompts you to log in with a Google account, you can use your new Google identity to sign into Asana. However, remember that this identity is tied to your email address, and so the app, Asana, is going to want to send you a confirmation email to say, hey, welcome to our app. Thanks for signing up, and thanks for connecting your Google account. But that email is not going to go into the inbox of your Google account because it's going to be sent to your email address based on the MX or DNS records of that email domain. And that's going to go to wherever your mail is hosted right now, be it Microsoft or a web host or cPanel, or maybe just straight downloaded from your internet service provider into your Mac Mail or your Outlook application. So keep in mind that it does get a little bit weird if you've deployed a Google account and you want to start using it for sign-in, logins, or integrations. However, it should still function. If you create a document in Google Drive and you want to have a Zapier Zap, which is connecting automations to that account and placing files into your Google Drive, or reading files in your Google Drive and doing something else with them, well, it doesn't need email for that function. So once you authorize your Google account, you do have the ability to connect that up to a service like Zapier and have those automations work fine. That's going to work okay. Just keeping in mind that anytime you send an email to that email address, it's still going to go to wherever your email are being sent right now. Now, there's another question, or another part to this question, is it possible to have two domains linked to Google Workspace? Absolutely, it is. You can create pretty much as many domains as you want. And there's two types of domains that you can add when you add an additional domain to your Google Workspace. The first type is an alias domain. And what that means is it's like a carbon copy. Effectively, you have your primary domain, which is where all of your users will be configured, and the alias domain will create a second email address for every person in the business, but that second email address will still arrive in the main bucket of email for each primary user. And so if you have a brand, like maybe a .com, but you also own the .com.au or .co.uk, well, you can have those additional extra domains added as alias domains for no additional cost, and they'll redirect the emails automatically to each one of your users. Now, on this channel, I often talk about the concept of buckets of email. A bucket of email is a mailbox. It's somewhere where the emails go, and you only have to pay for each bucket of email in your account. Multiple email addresses going to one bucket, you're still only paying for one account. Now, there's a second type of domain that you can add to your Workspace account, and that's called an add-on domain. And the add-on domain does something special. It actually allows you to have new buckets with the add-on domain as the primary email address. It means that effectively you can have multiple primary domains for your Google Workspace account. And if you create a bucket of email or a user account using the secondary, well, I won't call it a secondary domain, the second primary domain, well, that user will log in with that email address. They will send calendar invites from that email address. All of their integrations will be connected to that second email address. Now, if you want to do something clever and use your first domain name and add it as an alias to the second email address or the second bucket of email, you can also do that as well. And so it means that you can kind of play both fields if you've got different regions, if you've got different brands under management, or if you've just got different domain names and you want a special combination of how they're set up for your users. Now, the one time that we don't recommend creating too many domains under one Google Workspace account is if you're, say, a serial entrepreneur with multiple unrelated businesses. If you have one company with multiple brands, well, it makes sense to have everything under one Workspace account. But if you have multiple businesses and you have multiple business partners or potentially need to split out the data of one of those businesses sometime in the potential near future, well, it would make sense to spin up a completely separate Google Workspace account. And in that completely separate account, well, you have the opportunity to configure it how you wish, keep the domain names completely separate for now. And if you need to, it means that you can easily move that domain name on with its own dedicated attached Google Workspace account. Now, you might be wondering, well, in that situation, Peter, I then have two mailboxes because I need to run both companies. I'm the owner of both, and I have a mailbox in both. Well, if you want to be clever about it, what you could do is you could forward the emails from the secondary mailbox or your mailbox in the secondary Google Workspace account back to your mailbox in your primary account. And when you do that, it means that you get all your emails in one place, sending and receiving from multiple email addresses, even across multiple Workspace accounts. Now, there's some downsides and some upsides to different configurations. I recommend you search our channel for multiple domains. I've got lots of different videos on different scenarios. Hopefully, you'll find the information that you need. Cool. All right, I'm going to mark that one off, but we've got another question that's come through. I think I'll handle your question next, Bruce. Let me just mark that bad boy off. Okay, in admin security users report, what is users enrolled and not enrolled? Good question. Let's go and have a look. Users report. So let's dive into our admin panel. We're going to go to admin, security, and users report, which I can't see here. Let me see here, users report. Maybe that's a enterprise feature, and I don't know if we're on enterprise or not. Mobile. If this is a device report, that might be it. We've got a little bit of a lag, Bruce, so I might come back to that one once you let me know exactly where that is. But I am not able to find a users report under security. So it may be a feature that I don't have, which would be weird, but yeah, I'm curious. I'm not actually sure what plan we're on because my team manages this now. Where's my billing? I'm unsure if we're actually on Business Plus. There we go. Okay, so maybe that's an enterprise, could be an enterprise feature. Oh, unable to process payment. All right. Hope someone fixes that. All right, Bruce, let me know on that one. I'll move on to the next question. I might loop back to that one. Anthony asks, can Google Chat be set up as an email signature link for clients? Basically use it for chatting to prospective clients without sharing a telephone number. I wish that this was possible, but I do not have an option for this right now. What Anthony is asking for is, can Google Chat be set up as like a live chat type solution, or even just linking to create a chat with you? There's no way that I know of doing that. Let's have a bit of a Google link to start Google Chat. I've got a feeling I searched for this in the past and I couldn't find it. Create direct link. Oh no, that's 2014. That's the old Hangouts. Start direct message 3 years ago. That would be close enough. All right, it looks like there are some options, but that's in the old Google Plus, which has been depreciated. So I think we are, as we say in Australia, up shit creek. Probably not workable. The approach using classic Hangouts is the only way. Yeah, I don't think that's even possible. I think the hangouts.google.com has been depreciated. Unless you could take, and I probably wouldn't want to do this on the internet, but unless you can take the URL of your own. So I can see a URL, but I don't know if it's related to the user or if it's related to I don't know if it's related to a user or if it's related to, you can see here, or if it's related to a chat space. But let me try something. I'm gonna get the URL of a direct message conversation that I have with someone in my business, and I'm gonna go to my personal account, and I'm gonna see if that opens a chat with Regina. Oops, wrong one. Helps if I can actually paste properly. Oh, it's opening chat. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? No. 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 So when you chat to someone, the URL appears to be the URL of a private chat room that has been created between you and another person. So it's the ID of the room. It's not the ID of the person. So that's a bummer. Doesn't seem to work. Good question though. I wish that was wish it was possible. I have tried that myself. Okay. Migrating Google Workspace from Microsoft 360 will bring all my email accounts, or do I have to open each account individually? Good question. You will need to configure. When you're doing a migration, there are a number of steps to go through. One is you need to configure all of the users. 2 is you need to set up your DNS, which will change your mail flow. 3 is you need to migrate your data. Now, each of these have pretty in-depth steps, and the reason we don't publish, or haven't so far published, a guide on the internet of how to do this is because it's a pretty challenging process, and it's one of those things like, I could give you some bricks and some timber and some concrete, but I wouldn't trust you to build a house for me. There are unknown unknowns when you migrate data, and we have a whole team of 60 people who are experts in migrating data, in managing that change management process of changing over from Microsoft to Google. If you have the time to read all the instructions manuals over a weekend and you don't mind a bit of downtime or a bit of lost data potentially, go ahead and give it a crack yourself. But my strong recommendation is that you engage a professional team to get that done. And we have a whole business around it because so many people break things when they try and do it themselves. Now, to move over your email, that needs to be done with some kind of migration application. Google have some built-in tools in the admin panel, which will allow you to connect to other mail systems and basically suck across the data cloud to cloud. Or you can use a number of third-party tools that are available. And those third-party tools can make the process easier, can reduce the chance of errors, and in some cases, they are very affordable to get that to work. Next step is you need to change your DNS settings, and typically what we would recommend is you first migrate your emails, then you change your DNS settings, and then you do what we call a delta migration, which is you migrate just the emails that have come in since you changed the DNS records. Because remember, DNS records can take up to 48 hours to propagate across the world. And so, unfortunately, sometimes you'll still have emails going to your old email service after you've cut over, and you don't want to lose those emails, so you've got to bring them across. So once you've got that done, obviously by that stage you'll already have your users set up. That's pretty much the last stage of getting switched over to Google. Once your emails are cut over with your DNS records and you're ready to rock and roll, you're off to the races and good to go. You may choose to do an archival or a cleanup of your legacy or existing mailboxes, whether that be your Mac mail, whether that be Outlook PST files, which is the database of all your emails inside of Microsoft Outlook, or even if it's an online service, it might be a good idea to take an archival copy of all of your email data for you and the rest of your users and zip it and save it somewhere like your Google Drive, just in case if for any reason the emails have not fully come across to your new Google Workspace account. You also may have trouble finding things. Maybe they didn't come through into the correct folders. Maybe there's some lost emails along the process. You want to make sure that you can find things and you don't want to lose any data. So it'd be my recommendation to pick up the slack with an export of your old system. And once that's done, after about 30 days, well, you're off to the races and you're good to go with your new Google Workspace. Good luck. All right. And of course, if you need support for Google Workspace, join one of our boot camps, have a chat to our team about Concierge, which is a small business service for businesses that are using Google Workspace. We do lots of education and training, and we want to help small business owners get the most out of the platform. So if you've got it and you kind of don't know what you're doing with Workspace, give us a call. We'll be happy to help out. All right. Cool. Great. Okay, Bruce has come back to me. So let's go to, we're going to have a look for this. So we're going to go to reporting. User reports, security. Okay, if you're looking at your security report here and you are saying that some people are enrolled and some people are not enrolled, what this is referring to is at the top of the menu here, two-step verification. So what that means is some people do not yet have two-step verification enrolled for your user accounts. And that's actually a pretty big issue for your business because it means that if someone's password is compromised, well, then their account can easily be compromised. Now you'll see here, if I scroll through, be very surprised to find anyone who's not enrolled. It looks like this might be a new user who's been configured here and not yet enrolled. But our team typically have to enroll straight away by policy, otherwise they get locked out of their accounts. Now, how do you set an effective two-factor authentication policy? I'll show you how to do that. So for us to set up our two-factor authentication, we go into our, where is it? Security menu, and then authentication, and then two-step verification. And you have the ability here to set a policy for the whole company. And if you wish, you can even set a policy just for groups of users using the organizational units feature. So I'm going to go ahead and wait. Doesn't seem to like my fingerprint today. So if you haven't yet set a policy for two-factor authentication, what this effectively means is when someone joins your company, they're going to be forced to set up a second factor of authentication. And my ideal is that you don't use mobile phones for this. Ideally, you want to use a push notification that goes through to an app of some sort or a 6-digit code that is generated by a code generation app. So let's have a look at how to switch it on. You can see here, I've got it switched on here. Enforcement is on for us. And there is a new user enrollment period. Now, my recommendation, if you're just setting this now, would not be to immediately enforce it. My recommendation would be to switch it on from a certain date, and that might be a week or two in the future. Now, what that does is it gives you enough time to allow your staff to be educated on what two-factor is, why it's important, and how to set it up so they don't try and log in one day and all of a sudden they're locked out of their account. If you enforce this policy immediately and someone is not enrolled, they may not be able to access their account. The other thing that's important for you to set is an enrollment period. So you can actually choose what the grace period is for someone to get their two-factor authentication set up when they first join your company. So when a new account is created, you may choose to set a day or even up to a week where they can enroll into two-factor authentication. My recommendation would be no longer than 1 week unless you have a really good reason for that, because you want to get people into the habit of using their second factor device pretty much from day one when they start working for your company. So if right now you're ready to get started on rolling out a policy, my recommendation is you give it a little bit of grace time for people to get enrolled. And for newbies that get started in the company, you give them up to a week to get started when they join in the future. Now, there is another setting here. You can see you can choose between allowing someone to use any method to connect or any method except text versus phone call. And this is actually my strong recommendation. We haven't yet implemented this one for our team. We're still managing some change management and some service accounts that this is not compatible with. But you can see here that this setting allows you to set an enforcement that someone has to use a mobile device code generator in an app, or they have to use a plug-in key of some sort, like a physical key that you tap and press a button on the side of your computer, or you can even use push notifications as well, which are also better than a 6-digit code to your mobile, because people can steal mobile numbers. The threat that you have is that if someone gets access to your mobile phone by calling your internet service provider or your phone provider, pretending to be you with your identity, and then yanking that number over to a fresh SIM card that they've just bought, unfortunately, they're going to be able to get access to your account pretty easily, and we don't want that. All right, good question. Cool. G'day, Smarty Pants Coder. Hey, no worries. Thanks for being here. If you've got any questions, I'm close to wrapping up because I'm on my last few questions here. But if you want to ask a question, drop them in to ask.itgenius.com, and I'll drop a link in here for you as well. Cool. And make sure you're subscribed as well. If you haven't yet shared our channel with someone else that you know, please do that. We always love that. If you know a business owner who's using Google Workspace, make sure you tell them the good word. All right, let's check my questions here. Oh, we got a live one. All right. I've got a question relating to manage Google Meet. Is there a way to disable the camera feed for everyone without compromising quality? Interesting. I'd like to know more about the scenario about that. Maybe you can let me know what the scenario is. Maybe you can let me know what the scenario is. What are you looking to do? I'm curious if you're trying to improve your bandwidth because you've got low bandwidth. In that case, just switch cameras off. Or are you looking for a policy, a policy that you can apply to have staff cameras disabled during meetings? I don't know. It's a weird one. I can't think of any reason why you would want that. There's a setting in Google Workspace to disable video, but it sets the bandwidth to 1 megabit per second. That's interesting. I would be curious. I'm gonna look up that setting because to be honest, I haven't dicked around with that myself. So let's go and have a look. I haven't looked in the Meet settings for a while. Let's see what we got here. Meet quality tool. Maybe that's the one. And Bruce, I'm glad that helped. Yeah, that's really important to get that right. In my organization, people by default don't share their camera feed. It's a tradition. Yeah, I know. Are you working with Filipinos? People like to hide behind cameras. All right, so where's my settings? That's not what I wanted. Meet settings. All right, I'm going to have to do it the old way. I'm going to go through. No, it's not directory. Apps. Workspace. Meet. Oh, here we go. For those that were on the stream earlier, looking for the flag, the flag that says that stuff that's only for premium. That's the flag. It's a little purple. It's a little purple flag there. Oop, that one there. That means if I can I hover over it? No, it doesn't seem to tell me. But that purple flag means it's only available for what's it called? Business Plus or Business Premium. I can't remember the name of the plan. Anyway, all right. Selecting client logs, recording, record quality. Sets bandwidth. That's very interesting. Default video quality. Allow dial in and dial out. That's very interesting. I better not change settings on my team, huh? Recording, highest quality resolution when conditions allow for recording. I'd probably make sure you have that one switched on. The following options will only apply to the uplink video quality on personal computers. I see. Limited video bandwidth. Uplink video bandwidth is limited to 1 megabits by default. Interesting. Audio only is the setting. I see. If a user turns on their camera, uplink video will be limited to 1 megabit. Oh, yeah. I see. I don't think there's a way around that. As we say in Australia, I think you're up shit creek. Sorry. I don't think there's if they're the options from Google, they're the options. I don't think you're going to get away around that. Although, what you may be able to do, depending on who the staff are that you want this to apply to, and I don't know how large your organization is or what the scenario is, you may apply this just to certain organizational units. That might make sense. Maybe you've got executives that want to have the full quality or are more likely to use Google and its frontline staff that want to use audio only, or maybe in certain locations you want to use audio only because you don't have the bandwidth for high quality video. So yeah, I'd say perhaps I wonder if you might be able to get the business result that you're after using organizational units and applying it just to certain groups or cohorts of staff. Apart from that, you're stuck. apart from that, you're stuck. Good question though. I've never seen that option before. That's the first time I've seen that one. Very interesting one. Thanks for asking the question though. Welcome to the stream. I think this might be your first one. Thanks for being here. All right. Our next question from Marian. I want to upgrade, but I want to keep the same Google account as default personal account where I've saved all my files and bookmarks. I don't want to create a fresh account to manage the Google Workspace. I'm using this account on different devices. Do I have to build a fresh one or keep this one? I'm assuming this upgrade is from a business starter plan to a business standard plan. In that case, yes, it's just a plan change. If that's not the case and someone wants to upgrade from a Gmail, personal consumer account into a Google Workspace account, you can keep the data, but it has to be migrated. You need to do a manual process of migrating the data. You can't click a button and automatically have the data there. You've got to manually move the data across. Now, there are tools for that. There are services that help you do that. itGenius specializes in this, and we do this all day in, day out. if that's what you mean by keep my Google account, keep your Gmail account, no, you can't keep your personal Gmail account. Now, that account doesn't get deleted, but if you want the data to come across to your business account, maybe you're a contractor or a freelancer and you've been using @gmail.com for a while and you want to get serious about your business and build a brand, and so you bought a domain name, you're signing up for a Google Workspace account now, that legacy data will have to be copied across. But if you're interested in that, click the link down below, have a chat to our team, and we've got very affordable rates on data migrations, even if you're a sole operator. We have plans, they're not on the website for sole operators, very, very affordable for you to get help with your Workspace account. We try and make it as affordable as possible for business owners all over the world. Good question, though. Good question. Okay. Someone has asked, like literally just now, so I assume they're on one of our calls, somewhere here. Is it healthy to configure MTS ST's policy? I don't even know what that is. Let's see. Hold on. Google Workspace. Oh, phishing policy. Oh, this is going to be a question for our enterprise team. That's the new email encryption. Let me check if that's what I think it is, because one of these authenticates your domain. Yeah, I think this is just the general security one. There's an authentication protocol, and here's where my experience I usually default, because I'm the small business expert. the guys who can figure this are our enterprise team. So there's another feature which I've forgotten the name, which gives you the little blue tick, which I'm not sure if that's MTASTS. If you are a medium to large size organization, yes, go and tick all the boxes and implement all of the security features in your enterprise account. If you've got less than 50 employees and you're not a high targeted risk for phishing, it's not so critical. But once you're an organization that's large enough to have IT management, to really want to lock down things like domain names from spoofing, if you're in a high risk industry like financial services, or you're a real estate agent in a real estate network, and you've got people sending $10,000 at a time or $100,000 at a time for house deposits to staff within the organization. Anything that's high risk, yes, go through your enterprise account, tick all the boxes, speak to our enterprise team, and they'll help configure all of those for you. We can set them up. We do a security audit, and we'll run through what's appropriate for your business to implement out of all of the bevy of features that there are, like DLP, data loss prevention, SMIME encryption. I think SMIME is the one that does the little verified tick. And so lots of different options there. It really depends on what size your organization is, whether or not you want to bother with this, or if you've got other fish to fry. Good question though. Good question. Let's mark that off. Last question. My friend shares a folder with me My friend has shared a folder with me and shared with me. I send him photos and videos on his drive, but though the folder is shared by him, I guess that's counting towards your quota. Is there any other way for me to send photos in his Google Drive without reducing the space in my drive? Ha ha! Always happens. Always happens. When you share a folder in my drive, you may be the owner of the folder, but you're not the owner of the files. The person who creates the files is the owner of the files. When you share a folder using the shared drives feature, so we go into our Google Drive and we go to shared drives, waiting. I create a folder under my company name or under my company's ownership. The company is the owner of the folder. The company pays for the storage. That's the difference between my drive and shared drives. My drive, I own the folder, but not the files, potentially. Shared drives, I own the folder, I own the files. Someone transfers in a file, I own the file. that's all, folks. I've run out of questions. Can't believe it. If you are interested, we have lives coming up. I'm going to be running live consultations, meaning if you would like to literally jump on a video call with me and share your questions with me, share your business with me. I can troubleshoot things live. I can implement things with you live, or we can just have a consultation session. We're going to be streaming these to the channel. And so get in while they're hot. If you want to do that with me live, we've got some spots coming up in the next couple of weeks. I have a feeling these are going to get pretty popular. And right now we've got, I think, 10 or so applications for them. So already we're oversubscribed. But if you want the best chance of taking up this offer, now would be a good time. Because other times when we've created content, our monthly update videos get thousands and thousands of views. I'm hoping that these will, really do well and share really valuable content with our community here. So they're going to get popular is what I'm saying. So if you're interested, head along to that URL, itgenius.com/live. All you've got to do here, there's a consultation page, is just fill out these 4 questions here on the consultation page, leave your details, and then, we'll let you know if you'll be invited to a live consultation. They are streamed to the channel, so you've got to be willing to tell people your problems in public. But, it's just Google Workspace. It can't be that embarrassing. And don't worry, everyone's got a messy Google Drive. But if you're interested in that, jump onto that. Otherwise, if you're interested in connecting with me, I'll drop my personal website in here as well. Instagram, Facebook, all the good places, LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me there, just head along to my website, moriarty.co. Or if you go to peter.tv, it just redirects. Easy to remember, peter.tv. Super easy. Moriarty is a bit hard to spell, so I spent some money on peter.tv. All right, we're going to wrap it there. Thanks for being here. Remember, if you want to drop in another question, ask.itgenius.com. Ask.itgenius.com. itGenius, we help small business owners systemize, organize, and scale with Google Workspace and many other small business tech tools. If you're interested in getting your house in order or your technology house in order, reach out for a free consultation. Click the link just down below this. Sales team are very busy this week, but we have a scheduler on the thank you page once you put in your consultation request, and you'll get connected to one of our team members soon. And we support Asia Pacific and US business hours right across both. We miss, I think, a couple of hours in the morning from Eastern time, but I think we're on by about 10 a.m. Eastern time. Otherwise, we cover all the US, and of course, we cover into the afternoon and into the West Coast's evening, definitely into the East Coast evening as well, and all of Asia Pacific time zone as well. One day we'll have Europe. It's coming. One day. But yeah, 70% of our new business is coming from the US at the moment. So we are responding to all of our new friends in the Americas, not just the US, in the Americas. We've got some Canadians here as well today, I think. I'm going to wrap it there. Take care, my